Laura Blumenfeld is a Middle East analyst, a best-selling author, and a former senior policy advisor at the U.S. State Department, where she focused on the Middle East peace process. Laura, welcome to the show. Two of Israel's most senior enemies killed within 24 hours. Can we say to what extent the U.S. government, Israel's biggest ally, was caught off guard?
Well, the United States, whatever they're saying publicly, this is very complicated and challenging for them. We're looking at everything through the prism of a presidential race, and Vice President Harris is running on the theme of freedom versus chaos. Well, their major ally in the Middle East is pretty much a kingdom of chaos right now with these toppling of, what they call the twin towers of terrorism.
What does these killings, these two killings, but especially Haniya, what could that mean to the attempts to get a ceasefire going in Gaza, something the U.S. government has been very invested in recent months?
Yeah, I mean, it could go either way. On the one hand, you could say this win for Netanyahu kind of gives him that symbolic victory that he needed to make the concessions to reach a ceasefire. And the same can be said of Hamas, that they've kind of been softened down by these military attacks and kind of beaten into submission, which was Netanyahu's approach all along. On the other hand, you could say, no, Hamas is just going to go into lockdown. They've got nothing to lose. As long as they hold those hostages, those souls in their hands, they hold the key cards.
Haniya has also been described as a Hamas official who was interested in a ceasefire agreement. How likely is it that his successors will see things in the same way?
I mean, it's interesting strategy, right? Shoot the messenger. I mean, I've known Haniya for decades. The last time I spoke to him, he was actually laughing bitterly because he was talking to me about the last time the Israelis had tried to assassinate him. He was sitting at lunch and the ceiling started raining down paint on his head because the Israelis had dropped a quarter-ton bomb on his house rather than a one-ton bomb, and so he escaped. There's always a replacement. I can't tell you how many Hamas leaders I've met with, and then months later they were gone. So I don't think that it'll really have a huge impact because Sinwar really was the key interlocutor. He was the decision maker for this deal.
Laura, I want to ask you where we go from here, but first let's listen to what the U.S. Deputy Ambassador to the UN said today at the UN Security Council.
It is best not to speculate on the impact that recent events may have on peace and security in the Middle East. A broader war is neither imminent nor inevitable.
First of all, we know that this killing of Haniya was a major event, especially when we compare it against the Hezbollah commander who was killed the night before. Do we have any idea how Iran might respond?
I went to Iran and spoke to the Grand Ayatollah years ago about the concept of retaliation and revenge and how you respond to an injustice. And what he said to me is very, very specific according to Islam. The key, though, about revenge is that the response is often greater than the original offense. And that's why they had this prescription from the elders, one grave opposite one grave. So what would that mean in this case? Does it mean that they would go after a diplomat, an Israeli leader, maybe, a diplomat in Western Europe, for example? Or does it mean they go to the heart of Israel, the way that Israel theoretically, anyway, they haven't acknowledged it yet, but it struck in the heart of Iran, in Tehran? Does that mean an attack on Tel Aviv? I mean, time will tell. It's coming, and it's coming soon.